All right, so this story about Jake and his startup
Oh, yeah.
funding adventures,
Mhm.
it sounds like he was really feeling the pressure at that holiday networking event in Dallas.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, who hasn't been there, right?
Right.
Trying to keep it together when everything's on the line for a project you believe in?
It's a universal feeling,
Oh, yeah.
and it's especially intense for entrepreneurs like Jake who were trying to secure funding.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about the financial risk.
Right.
It's that emotional investment
Mm-hmm.
in the idea,
Yeah.
in the dream they're building.
And it sounds like Jake's app has a lot of potential,
Oh, for sure.
helping small businesses simplify their payment processing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real pain point for a lot of people.
Definitely.
But all those doubts creeping in, feeling like everyone else has it figured out.
Oh, yeah.
Oof, I can relate.
What's interesting is how that feeling of inadequacy can become a self-fulfilling prophecy
Oh, yeah.
if you don't believe in yourself. It's much harder to convince others to believe in your idea.
So true. But luckily for Jake, he bumps into this seasoned mentor, Mr. Grant Money.
He does.
And I have to ask, what's the deal with the Shirley scepter?
Ah.
I have to admit that detail caught my attention.
Well, sometimes the most successful people have the most unexpected quirks, right?
Right.
But jokes aside,
Yeah.
I think that detail speaks to something important.
Okay.
Mentorship is about more than just advice.
Hmm.
It's about personality connection.
Yeah.
Finding someone who inspires you to think differently.
Okay, that makes sense. So Mr. Grant Money, he sees that Jake's about to spiral.
Yeah.
And instead of just offering generic pep talk,
Right.
he encourages Jake to shift his perspective.
Yeah.
Like, don't just focus on the fear,
Yeah.
focus on the potential of the app and how to communicate that to people who can actually fund it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where we move from the emotional side of entrepreneurship to the strategic side.
Okay.
It's a crucial lesson.
All right.
Passion is essential, but it's not enough.
Right.
You need to be able to articulate why your solution matters, who it benefits, and how it aligns with the goals of potential funders.
It's like you need to be able to translate your passion into a language that grant reviewers understand.
Yes.
But where do you even start with that?
Right.
It can feel so overwhelming.
That's where Mr. Grant Money's advice on finding the right grants comes in.
Okay.
He tells Jake to focus on grants that align with his app's core values, supporting small businesses and using technology for good.
Okay.
This is something you could apply to your own projects, too.
Yeah.
Instead of chasing every opportunity that comes along,
Right.
be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Look for funders who are genuinely interested in the type of work you're doing.
Makes sense. It's about finding the right audience for your pitch, whether it's grant reviewers or investors.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, Mr. Grant Money breaks down this whole grant proposal process into a few key elements, right?
He does.
Okay.
And it's a framework that can be applied to so much more than just grant writing.
It's about communication, persuasion,
Yeah.
and building a case for why your idea deserves support.
I'm all ears. Let's unpack those elements.
Okay.
The first one, if I remember correctly, is defining the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Seems pretty straightforward,
Yeah,
but I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye.
absolutely. It's not just about stating a problem.
Right.
It's about making the reviewers feel the problem.
Okay.
Why does this issue matter?
Hmm.
What are the consequences if it's not addressed?
Right.
And most importantly, how does your solution offer a unique and effective way to solve it?
So in Jake's case, he can't just say small businesses struggle with payments.
Right.
He needs to paint a picture of how those struggles impact real people,
Mm-hmm.
real businesses.
Yeah,
What are the tangible consequences?
exactly.
Lost
Yeah.
time, lost revenue, maybe even businesses shutting down because they can't manage the complexity of payment processing.
Exactly. You have to make it real, make it relatable.
Okay.
And this is where storytelling becomes so powerful. All right, so we've got the problem defined in a way that grabs people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? Mr. Grant Money talks about showcasing the solution, right?
He does. And this is where you get to shine a spotlight on what makes your solution unique and innovative.
Okay.
What are the specific features or approaches that set your solution apart?
Mm-hmm.
How does it address the problem more effectively than existing alternatives?
Right.
This is where Jake would get to deep dive into the nuts and bolts of his app and show why it's a game changer for small businesses.
Okay, so we've hooked them with the problem, dazzled them with the solution.
Yeah.
What's the final piece of the puzzle?
This is where Mr. Grant Money talks about painting a vision of the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's about showing the impact, the positive change that your project will bring about.
Right.
It's not just about fixing a problem.
Hmm.
It's about creating a better future.
So for Jake, that means going beyond just explaining how his app works.
Right.
It's about painting a picture of how it empowers small businesses to thrive. Maybe they can finally hire that extra employee or expand into a new market because they're not bogged down by payment processing headaches.
Right. It's about connecting the dots between the practical solution and the bigger picture impact.
Okay.
And this ties back to what we were talking about earlier with finding the right grants.
Yeah.
If you can align your vision with the funder's mission, you're speaking their language,
Right.
showing them how their investment will help them achieve their goals.
It's almost like you're inviting them to be part of the solution, to join you on this journey to a better future.
Hmm.
I can see how that would be way more compelling than just a dry list of features and benefits.
Yeah, definitely.
But let's be real, a big part of any grant proposal is the budget.
Right.
How does Mr. Grant Money advise Jake to tackle that?
He stresses transparency and detail.
Okay.
It's about showing that you've thought carefully about how the funds will be used,
Mm-hmm.
that you're being responsible and accountable. This builds trust with reviewers, demonstrating that you're not just throwing money at a problem, but you have a solid plan
Right.
for making a real difference.
That makes sense. If I were a grant reviewer, I'd definitely want to see a breakdown of where the money's going,
Yeah.
how it's going to be used to achieve the project's goals.
Right?
It's like, show me you've done your homework, that you're not just winging it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about impressing the reviewers.
Okay.
A detailed budget helps you, the entrepreneur, stay on track.
Mm-hmm.
It forces you to think through the different aspects of your project,
Yeah.
the resources you'll need,
Right.
the timeline you're working with.
Okay.
It can be a really valuable planning tool, even beyond the grant application process.
So it sounds like Mr. Grant Money is giving Jake much more than just tips on writing a grant proposal. He's giving him a framework for thinking about his business, his goals, and how to effectively communicate those to the world.
And that's what good mentorship is all about.
Right.
It's not just about giving answers. It's about asking the right questions, helping someone discover their own path.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about the importance of believing in yourself,
Yeah.
finding the right opportunities, crafting a compelling narrative, and backing it up with a solid plan.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens to Jake after this encounter with Mr. Grant Money?
Right.
Does he actually get the funding?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The story doesn't explicitly say whether Jake gets the grant.
Okay.
But what it does highlight is the transformative power of mentorship.
How so?
Well, think about Jake's state of mind before and after meeting Mr. Grant Money. He goes from feeling overwhelmed and doubtful to feeling empowered and ready to take action.
Right.
That shift in mindset is arguably more valuable than any amount of funding.
That's a really good point. It's like, even if he doesn't get this particular grant, he's gained something invaluable.
Yeah.
The confidence and the tools to keep pursuing his dream.
Exactly.
Mm.
And I think that's a really important takeaway for anyone listening to this.
Yeah. Thanks.
We all face challenges,
Yeah.
moments where we feel stuck or unsure of ourselves.
Right.
But sometimes all it takes is a fresh perspective, a guiding hand to help us see the path forward.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
let's take a moment to reflect on our own journeys. What challenges are we facing?
Yeah.
Where do we need guidance or support?
Right.
And what steps can we take today to move closer to our goals?
It's interesting to think about the ripple effect of mentorship.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Grant Money's guidance doesn't just impact Jake. It potentially impacts all the small businesses Jake's app will eventually help.
It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
By empowering Jake, Mr. Grant Money is indirectly supporting a whole network of entrepreneurs and their dreams.
Precisely. And that brings us to an important question for you.
Okay.
What's the ripple effect of your work?
Oh,
How can your projects create positive change beyond your immediate goals?
that's a great question to ponder. It really makes you think about the bigger picture, the potential impact of even the smallest action.
It does. And sometimes just that shift in perspective can be enough to spark a new idea, a new approach, a renewed sense of purpose.
So what's one concrete step you can take today to move closer to that vision?
Yeah.
Maybe it's reaching out to a mentor, refining your grant proposal, or simply taking a few minutes to articulate your project's ripple effect.
Remember, you don't have to have all the answers right now.
Right.
The journey is just as important as the destination.
And sometimes the most unexpected detours lead to the most amazing discoveries.
Oh, for sure.
So keep exploring, keep learning.
Yeah.
And keep diving deep into the things that matter to you.
We can't wait to hear about the ripples you create. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.